Hello, it's Jim Hutchins for the Jerusalem Connection Truth Report for this week. Last week, here in Washington, D.C., AIPAC held their annual conference. 18,000 pro-Israel, pro-Jewish attendees were a part of that. The president spoke, vice president spoke, a number of dignitaries. Noticeable for their absence were any of the candidates for the Democratic presidency. But I was especially struck with what the Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, had to say, and I want to read some excerpts from what he had to say. Pompeo said, "I want to talk to you tonight about something that I'm very worried about. Indeed, I'm deeply worried about an old threat that is emerging to Israel and Jews all around the world, the threat of anti-Semitism. It's a cancer metastasizing in the Middle East, in Europe, and indeed, sadly, here in the United States as well. In Britain, the Labour Party's tolerance of anti-Semitism in its ranks is a national disgrace. In France, Jews are under attack. The incidence of anti-Semitic attacks in Germany is also on the rise. Indeed, hate crimes against Jews in this country have risen by 1/3 since 2017. We don't have to go far but to consider the attacks on the Orthodox Jewish community in Crown Heights, Brooklyn, over the past year, and none of us will ever forget the 11 Americans murdered while praying one Shabbat morning in the Tree of Life Synagogue. May their memories be blessing to all of us. Every decent human being has the responsibility to fight anti-Semitism. It is an affront to religious liberty. It denies the rights of Jews to worship their God. It attacks what it means to be Jewish, ethnically and religiously. But Americans have a special responsibility to combat this scourge. Because religious freedom sits at the core of our founding in our own Bill of Rights, it's at the very first freedom. It's the essential freedom upon which all others that we enjoy here in America are built. And because I'm a champion of that religious freedom, because I'm an American, that I'm here today to tell you the United States stands with Jewish people and Israel in this fight against the world's oldest bigotry, the bigotry of anti-Semitism. This bigotry is taking on an insidious new form in the guise of anti-Zionism. Anti-Zionism. It's infested college campuses in the form of boycott, divest, and sanction movement. It's discussed in our media. It's supported by certain members of Congress, believe it or not. It's hard to believe. I suspect that none of whom are here tonight, he says. Zionism reflects the determination of the Jews to live as a free people in their ancestral homeland. It grows out of the Jewish faith based upon the Bible. Zionism was born in the Old Testament, crystallized under Theodore Herzl in the 19th century, as was realized in May of 1948 when David Ben-Gurion read aloud a Declaration of Independence proclaiming the establishment of the modern state of Israel. And yet today, only one country in the 192 United Nations has its right to exist routinely questioned. That is Israel. So my friends, let me go on record. Anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism. Anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism. Trump administration opposed it unequivocally, and we will fight for it relentlessly. I want to talk about why anti-Semitism is other. I have a few thoughts for that reason. move on. The Trump administration and my team at the State Department is confronting the world's #1 proponent of anti-Semitism in the Islamic Republic of Iran. We live in dangerous times. We have to speak the truth. Anti-Semitism should and must be rejected by all decent people. Anti-Semitism, anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism. And any nation that espouses anti-Zionism like Iran must be confronted. We must defend the rightful homeland of the Jewish people. Indeed, we were reminded of the consequences if we fall. As I close, I want to return to my visit to Yad Vashem in Israel. At that memorial, those of you who have been there know, there's a list of people called the righteous among the Gentiles, among the nations. These are non-Jews who risked their life to save Jews during the Holocaust. 40 years ago, this man, a man named Tibor Boransky, was added to the list. Tibor repeatedly risked his life and limb to save 3,000 Jews in Hungary during World War II. He later immigrated to America and became a citizen, passed away this past January at the age of 96. In the course of his heroic labors, a Nazi officer held a gun to Tibor's head and said the following: "Why do you, a Christian, help Jews?" Tibor answered, "You're either silly or an idiot. It's because I am a Christian that I help Jews. It's because we're Christians that we help the Jews as well." And as Secretary of State and as a Christian, I'm proud to lead American diplomacy to support Israel's right to defend itself, and I'm proud to stand with the Jewish people and to champion the cause of religious liberty in Israel and in America. Anti-Semitism is on the rise. And interestingly enough, it's Christians that are taking the strongest stand against us. Anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism. And as Christians, we base our stance and our support of Israel based upon the Bible, based upon God's covenant to Abram for the land that he has promised them. This is the promised land. And God will fulfill his promise. And that's the truth.